welcome to day number 3 of the 2017 DreamHack Hearthstone Grand Prix for the very first time in Atlanta, Georgia. Over 180 players entered the arena 2 days ago, and now we are down to our final 8. My name is Cora Songbird Georgiou, and joining me on the desk for our first quarterfinal match is going to be Falcone and Lorinda. Guys, it's been a couple of very long days. How are you feeling knowing that we're getting into our top 8? Lorinda?
It's great to just get to this point. 169 players, I believe, started this. We've got rid of 161 of them. They're playing the side event now for a lot of money as well. And we're going to see who's going to take down this first incredible event here at Atlanta.
The slow part of the tournament is over, right? We've very slowly gone through. We've done the top 16, and now they're playing for the big money. They're playing for the points. This is where the excitement really begins for me.
Yeah, from this point, all of our matches will be streamed. So we're going to be doing all 4 quarterfinals, then of course the semifinals and the finals to find our DreamHack Atlanta 2017 champion. But our first match of the day is going to be between Noblord and Richwebz. Noblord 3-0'd Amnesiac yesterday with his Jade Druid. He goes to Rutgers University. He was a member of their TESPA championship team in the collegiate series this past season. So he has a lot of competitive experience, and it's great to see him finally on a big stage, but we don't know really anything about Richwebz.
Again, relative unknown. We get some of these guys every time there's a DreamHack. That's kind of the point of these open tournaments, to introduce us to these players. We do know that he's playing Easy Big, Easy Druid, and that's something that does excite me.
Yeah, it's always good fun for everybody, especially you guys watching at home, to see the Druid to get this far as well. And I mean, this lineup today, he's got it to do. There's a massive stacked top 8 now this time around. Totally different to Valencia, where we had a lot of new faces. There's only 1 or 2 here.
Yeah, I mean, top 4 finishes for both of these guys would be huge resume boosters, great for their reputation. I know Rich just made his Twitter for the first time yesterday. Yeah, so, you know, Noblord's been around. He's kind of old hat when it comes to the Hearthstone scene and just hasn't had that big finish. But Richwebz he is an entirely fresh face. I was actually heading out of the convention center yesterday with you, Falcone, and we ran into him, and he just said, "Cora, I did it." And I'm like, "Who are you?" And then he said, "Richwebz." I'm like, "Oh, yes, Richwebz, Easy Big, Easy Druid." And he said, "Yeah, I won 2 of my games with it against Impact." And Impact is a storied CCG competitor. So Richwebz, he's taken down some big opponents already, but he's got to get through Noblord if he wants to make it to the top 8 and essentially double his prize money and his HCT points.
I mean, if he only just made his Twitter, then it's only fair at this point that we go and follow him and I guess retweet him to get him out there. He's clearly a player worth taking a look at. Top 8 DreamHack is no small feat.
Yeah, it absolutely is not, but we can take a look at our bracket and the 8 remaining players that we're going to be seeing squaring off today. So Chalky versus Just Saiyan will actually be our second streamed match of the day. We are starting off with Noblord versus Richwebz, and then it will be Naaman versus Icer, and finally Sir Slim versus Dr. Jikaninki. So well-known names in pretty much every one of these matches. Obviously, Chalky Saiyan is going to be the highlight of the quarterfinals, I guarantee, but then Naaman is an absolutely fantastic player from Kazakhstan, plays for Virtus Pro, and then Dr. Jikaninki was a previous America's champion on the HCT circuit.
It's funny how it's worked out in this way once again, where we could end up with the fact that the relative unknown players all just usurp the pros, and we end up with a top 4. We're at top 4 next. With a top 4 that we don't know that much about.
Yeah, or we could just end up with an incredible top 4 that we've seen many times before. And I think we're going to. I think that the revealed deck format is just so good, in particular for Noblord, Chucky, and Just Saiyan, because they are guys that continually just do deck reviews anyway of other top 8s. They are used to just going through who's going to win this on these lineups. It's natural to them.
I have to ask, now that we've seen the final 8, who is your guys' pick to take this whole thing home? Just Saiyan has been on an absolute tear, but then we've got Naaman, who can never be underestimated. Chalky, who just slid into the top 16. He was 16th place, but now he's made it to the top 8. Some relative unknowns. Who do you think it's going to be, Lorinda?
Chucky's been there, done it before. But I think that this is Just Saiyan's year. I think he's just slowly but surely sneaking into higher and higher positions in this game. I think we're going to see him take this down. He's got it to do, though. He's in the hard half of the draw.
Am I right in thinking that Neyman is the only European that's made it to this stage of the tournament?
Well, we only brought like 6.
We didn't bring many, so I've got to support him a little bit. I also have enjoyed watching Chucky so far in this tournament. I want to see his Priest again. If you've forgotten, it has Shadow Word Horror in it. I want to see what that deck is capable of and what that card specifically is capable of without the point-sized potion.
We definitely have some unconventional decks in the top 8, but we can go ahead and check out our picks and bans for the first match between Noblord and Richwebz. Here we can see Noblord getting ready for this match. He has the Druid, Warrior, and Paladin. Shaman has been banned, and then Richwebz with a mirrored class lineup, the Paladin, Warrior, Druid, and the Shaman banned. I think this is the most prevalent lineup in the tournament, but the archetypes certainly could be very, very different. We know Noblord has Jade Druid and Richwebz has Big Easy Druid, for instance.
Yeah, and Noblord's Shaman was more of a Jadey Shaman with some elementals thrown in for good measure.
Right.
A very different deck to the Shaman we've just come to know and love, I'm sure.
I don't mind Jade Shaman, or Bloodlust Shaman, excuse me. It's something different. It actually hasn't been in the meta for too long. But one of the big stories of this tournament for me is Paladin and how it has such sweeping potential but hasn't been drawing many of the bans because people feel so pressured to have to ban the Shaman or the Mage if they see it even, or the Druid.
There's been an odd balance there, I think. There have been some series where one player has banned the Paladin, the other player has banned the Shaman, and in a few of those series, we witnessed that the Paladin ban did end up being incorrect, because in the end, they ended up with Paladin versus Shaman, and Devolve just helped the Shaman win that matchup.
Exactly. Well, the players are ready to get into their match. So one final thing, Falcone, who's going to take it?
He's going to take this one.
Yep.
Obviously, Noblord is the storied player here, but Richwebz is bringing Big Easy Druid, so I'm going to give it to Richwebz.
Lorinda?
Noblord for me. How can I go against the guy who does so many stats and is called Noblord? It's just a thing I have to pick.
All right, well, you certainly can't argue with that, but we are getting ready to get into our very first quarterfinal match of the day. Noblord versus Richwebz, coming right after this.
All right, we are just about to start our first game of the final day, DreamHack Atlanta 2017. And we've already talked about who we think is going to take it. Lorinda and I had a little disagreement there.
Nothing new there.
Lorinda going with the numbers, going with the stats, making the smart choice. And I'm just going with the Big Easy Druid.
I mean, would you have expected anything less from us too? Let's face it, that's exactly how the picks were always going to go down.
It's a deck that I don't think we've seen a single time in this tournament so far. We've seen it a little bit in the Hearthstone Global games, but really not much. And I've got to say, playing on the ladder, watching streamers playing it, I don't know, it just makes me happy.
Yeah, so we're going to go straight into this game now. And game number 1, it's Pirate Warrior versus what we have come to call Hoi Paladin. That is the Paladin with Deathwing at the top of the curve. Okay, so Noblord going to... Interesting mulligan decision whether to keep this upgrade or not. You have so many 1-drops that are much better than upgrade, but you are so punished if you don't get a single weapon that sometimes it is just safety first. All depends how he sees the matchup. If he feels that he's favored, then he will play it more safely than if he feels that he's unfavored.
Yeah, this is an okay matchup for the Pirate Warrior pretty much until turn 6. On turn 6 is where it all starts to go downhill. If Richwebz can get a minion to stick to the board to set up for that Spike Witch steed, then that steed kind of single-handedly beats Pirate Warrior, unless the Pirate Warrior has a big Arcanite Reaper going.
Yeah, and that's, one way to get a big weapon going is to keep that upgrade. And Noblord already, you can see how much he's putting effort into just thinking about this decision on ladder. You just make a decision one way or the other in a few seconds, get on with your life. Turns out that when you're trying to win DreamHack, it's worth having a bit more of a think about what you're going to do with your mulligan and how it might pan out.
Well, this isn't a horrible start for Richwebz. Turn 1, Grimscale Chum, into turn 2, 3-2, Grimscale Chum. He is going to want to pick up another Murloc, though, preferably next turn. If he can get a Rockpool Hunter, that would be perfect, but he doesn't want to have to play on turn 2 a 1-mana 3-2 that does nothing.
Yeah, Noblord, we still don't know if he's going to be rewarded or punished for keeping this upgrade. Obviously, he's going to be able to deal with the first thing that's put on the board because he kept it, but until we see the second card in his deck, we don't know what he would have had in his opening hand. So he's going to have the first card in his deck at the moment. So until we see that, we don't know how it would have worked out differently. But he is at least going to be able to stop the Murlocs getting out of control. And he has to kill this because of what you just said, because that Rockpool Hunter potential is just so sick.
It's super important, not only that, but you have to consider the fact that Noblord's going to want to be clearing this board all the way through. I said Spike Rich Steed is the card that wins this matchup for the Paladin. If nothing ever sticks, then Richwebz isn't going to be able to drop Spike Rich Steed until at least turn 8 with the hero power, and that's if he draws it.
Yeah, he's not going to be delighted with his hand, but Noblord is going to be absolutely distraught about his. It can sort itself out in a hurry if he can pick up a pirate next turn to start buffing up this weapon, but at the moment, if Noblord has one more miss, if he picks up a Bittertide Hydra or something like that, he could just find himself overwhelmed in the first few moments. So Richweb's decision here is just the one of how much value do I need out of this hero power? And I think he'll come to the conclusion he'd rather just have the bigger minion on the board, ready to challenge whatever pirates are played.
Yeah, the important thing about this Grimescale Charm as well is that it sets up the Murloc War Leader to come down on turn 3 as a 4-4. And 4-4 is pretty good stats. It means that a Fiery War Axe on its own won't be able to deal with it. Corcoran Elite isn't going to be an option just yet. It's only turn 3 next turn for Noblord, and he just used up the coin. It works out nicely, and it would just eat up both of the pirates, the one pirate on Noblord's board, because the cultist and the weapon would have to trade into it.
Yep, Noblord getting through one more turn there, and if he can get through one more, and he might do, then he will just start to sneak into this. That Spellbreaker might actually have to be used a little bit earlier than he would like. He would like to keep that for Spike Rich Steed situations, and we'll see him make every effort to do that. But if he starts getting too far behind on board, he may just have to use it to deal with a War Leader.
Just a note on Noblord's deck list, and the kind of deck list we've seen a lot of in this tournament so far is that there's no Leroy Jenkins in the Pirate Warrior, but there is double Bittertide Hydra.
Yeah, and that is actually the difference between their Pirate Warriors, is that Richwebz, when we see his Pirate Warrior, is playing one Bittertide, one Leroy.
Right, so Richwebz, would you say that's the more classic Pirate Warrior? Maybe the pro players that have been working together have worked out that Bittertide Hydra just works better in this meta, whereas Richwebz, maybe with less practice partners, has just come to the conclusion that old is fine.
I think it's just a personal preference thing. If you play a lot of Pirate Warrior and Leroy just sits in your hand the whole time, and you sit there wishing you could play something, I think that personally, Leroy is probably a little bit outdated overall. It just feels obvious. You want to hit people in the face with that final 6, but that extra tiny bit of control, and if you play an 8-8 Hydra, it almost always hits for 8 once, or just completely depletes your opponent's stack. It does, of course, always cost you games, especially against, we like it against Druid, but you can just lose to being swiped in the face for 7. All right, and Noblord's hand has hung on in there, and if he gets one more turn with the board, and it looks like he will, he's actually going to have a chance to get into this, and he may well be able to defend this Spellbreaker for the future. Yeah,
Spellbreaker, I told you that Spike Rich Steed wins the matchup, right? Well, Spellbreaker unwins the matchup for the Spike Rich Steed. Not the most comfortable turn 4 for Noblord here. Southsea Deckhand, Armor Up is just going to have to do the trick. There's no way Noblord can afford to just drop Spellbreaker on turn 4.
There is another way of stopping your opponent from playing a turn 6 Spike Rich Steed.
Win before he gets to turn 6.
Or kill all their minions.
Yeah.
So the Spellbreaker, the decision he has to think about is, can I just use this Spellbreaker to get the board control so that Rich has no minions going into turn 6? So I don't have to Spellbreaker them. But he's feeling this is fine, and I think we all agreed on that. But definitely worth paying the attention to the fact that putting a 4-3 on the board actually might just stop the minions being there.
I mean, fine is a strong word, right? Turn 4, you've spent 3 mana, and 2 of that was from your hero power. Not the best play for an aggressive deck like this. However, next turn, Noblord is going to have Arcanite Reaper. The turn after that, he's going to have Captain Greenskin. We are talking a lot of output coming from the Pirate Warrior in the next couple of turns. Richwebz picks up the true Silver Champion there, but it's not really doing anything. He's got Rallying Blade on the board already. It looks like Stonehill Defender is just the best play from him this turn.
Yeah, if it is, that's pretty sad state of affairs for him.
Maybe he has to just play the Megasaur and accept, okay, I'm not getting any Murloc buffs, so be it.
Yeah, it's definitely a big thing to plop onto the board. It depends on what he's looking for Stonehill. Obviously, Tyrion's the usual answer to that question, but that isn't until turn 8. And he is just starting to take some damage now.
Oh, okay. This is actually not a snap pick by any means. Second-rate Bruiser can be interesting if the Warrior ever gets 3 minions on the board. But Pyro Warriors don't usually go that wide. But there are minions on the board at the moment. Maybe Richwebz just tries to leave them up, but he's put a Taunt in the way, so that doesn't work. Okay, Primordial Drake can clear a board and put up the most health with Taunt.
Yeah, and Tyrion loses a little bit of value as well because of the Rallying Blade and the True Silver already in hand. We've talked about this when we talk about UK Paladin, is that the weapons, if you have too many of them, it really lowers the value of Tyrion.
Risky pick from Richwebz only really pays off if Noblord can ever get 3 minions down. But I guess even if he can't, it's still the cheapest taunt there. He can play this one for 5 mana. He doesn't need to wait. He can just drop it this turn if he wants to.
Yeah, and look at this health total. Although Noblord's had what we consider and feel is a very slow start, Richweb's still down to 19 already. You might be dead by turn 8, the way that Pirates can just output that damage.
So the way it looks like the next few turns is going to go, Richwebz putting up the second-rate Bruiser, the Arcanite Reaper, hitting that.
Noblord has just told Richwebz that his Spellbreaker is in his hand. He's going into turn 6 against Paladin,
Yep.
and you've done 2 damage rather than clear the board.
Right. You're right.
I'm not saying that's bad,
No.
it's just if Richwebz is wide awake, he now knows that Spellbreaker's hanging out in there. I don't know if there's anything you can do about that, you still have to go about it, but he now knows what's going on there.
I completely agree, good spot there, and Richwebz also knows that Noblord has held on to these 3 cards on the left for a very long time. Captain Greenskin, Arcanite Reaper, both been there from the start of the game. There are only so many big cards in Noblord's deck. Richwebz may know exactly what those 3 cards are, and as you said, he now does know what Spellbreaker is.
Yeah, Noblord, though, going to get a pretty good turn. Like, again, just keep saying he's got Rich down to 17. Now he's got him down to 11. You can see that for yourselves, of course. But with that Spellbreaker, he's managed to defend. He made the decision on turn 4 not to play it as a board control minion.
Yeah.
He's getting to the position where lethal is getting set up. He has every tool he needs to finish this job on turn 8, and plenty of tools to get a lot of work done, and possibly even lethal on turn 7.
Yep, Pirate Warrior doing what Pirate Warrior does best. I think it's safe to say that. Sunkeeper Tarim does seem like a solid play here, though. Richwebz can just get rid of Captain Greenskin, heal up with the True Silver Champion. No, he's going to hold on to it for now. I guess he's not under any immediate threat, though. That's kind of risky. He knows there's a Spellbreaker there. There's 6 damage on the board. Noblord's 5 off lethal. I think if Richwebz had 1 less health, he'd have considered using that True Silver Champion there.
I think you're absolutely
Because
right.
4 is the magic number, right? Heroic Strike would have been lethal this turn.
Yeah, and you're never using this to kill a minion, or almost never. I mean, never say never in Hearthstone. General rules are bad and dangerous things, as Sottle will teach you. But, yeah, gaining that 2 health is going to happen at some point, almost certainly. And Noblord now just has to plan what is the safest way to get this damage through. And what can I remember about Richweb's deck? Is there anything odd in there? Again, Noblord is just... He can go through deck lists, deck lineups in minutes and understand them absolutely perfectly. His understanding of interactions of lineups is the best in the business.
Yeah, and you know, the human memory isn't perfect.
I've noticed.
Yeah.
What you're saying? Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Richwebz has easy, big, easy Druid, as we've been saying a few times now, and that's something that's going to force Noblord to change his way of thinking.
Noblord making a multi-pronged attack here. First of all, this board needs to be dealt with without the use of Tarim. And secondly, he has more weapons. He has the Mortal Strike all lined up for next turn. How are you going to stop all of these different things?
So, you put up a taunt, you heal with the True Silver Champion, and you make the trade. It looks like that's the only way of doing it. I guess the Curator is just obviously better here than second-rate Bruiser. It also means that Richwebz should be drawing another Primordial Drake to play next turn. So he's okay just for the time being.
I always find it fascinating watching Noblord thinking out loud to himself, by the way. It's interesting because this is your natural state, as most people, thinking out loud at home.
Yeah.
Because why not? There's no one around. But some people need to keep doing what they're absolutely comfortable with, even in public.
Ooh.
And I find it interesting to watch him.
That's disappointing that Richwebz did not pick up a Primordial Drake off of that Curator.
So this could get interesting, because he has to make sure that Noblord can't injure himself for a huge amount at any point. If Noblord can get himself below third 12, he'll win the game.
I'm almost surprised the true silver champion didn't go in there just to heal up. Richwebz playing it very cool, playing it very patiently. A lot of players would have just done that to get the health total up to 7, but I guess he's analyzed his opponent's position and realized, I'm safe at 5 health.
Yeah, Noblord is only playing 1 Mortal Strike. We should make that clear. It's not like they're waiting to get the second one.
Yeah.
And all the time, though, if Richwebz keeps playing this, he needs to remember, and I'm sure he will, he's in the top 8 at DreamHack, he knows what he's doing, but he needs to remember at all times not to put Noblord below 13 health without actually healing up first. Right. Otherwise, an accident may occur. It's just one extra thing to hold in your mind while you're under this sort of pressure. He's holding up really well. He looks like he belongs here straight away. We've seen some players yesterday look like they were cracking under the pressure. Richwebz is sitting there like he does it every day.
Yeah, but this position is far from simple, and Noblord gonna just drop a big 8-8. Not ideal against Paladin. Richwebz has a few ways of dealing with it, and there's the Spike Ridge Steed. Not coming at the key moment here with kind of... Well, actually, he's running out of taunts, sort of. There's a second rate bruiser, there's now a Spike Ridge Steed. Maybe that was a key draw.
Yeah, it's pretty important. He's Spellbreaker is out of the way, and Rich is on the edge of stabilizing. He's on the edge of winning as well, let's face it. He's got 12 damage on the board. He has to obviously be very careful to heal up first.
On the edge of winning is a way in which I'd describe both players in this position. Noblord, if he had another silence ready to go right now, he could just take it. In the previous turn, Spellbreaker, swinging with the Arcanite Reaper, would have been lethal, but there isn't another silence.
He's got a second minion as well, so Noblord's going to have to get through these the old-fashioned way with just brute force.
Yeah. Importantly as well, Sunkeeper Tarim now has 9 health. Hidden Hydra has 8 attack. The numbers do not add up nicely for Noblord. Richwebz
doesn't pick up anything to win the game with him. Richwebz does hold on in the game. He looked like he was losing for some time at the start there. But Noblord's terrible opening hand. And remember, he did keep in his opening hand the upgrade as a safety measure, if you like. But that meant that he was always 1 card less deep in his deck. So I never say if something is right or wrong, because you need to see it pan out hundreds of times. I just find it interesting to find out where the divergent paths lead. On this occasion, it led to a bad hand.
Now, Noblord is going to want to pick a deck that's going to beat Richwebz Paladin. Paladin's a tough one to beat. You don't have access to your Shaman. So you either go with the Mirror, or you go with the Druid.
And
Druid is a Jade Druid.
Yeah, Druid is a Jade Druid, and Druid does not enjoy playing against Paladin. It can hold on and hold on and hold on, and you would think that would favor the Druid, as obviously the Jades do their thing.
Noblord's Paladin, though, is an Azoth Paladin.
Oh, okay.
Which makes things interesting.
Yeah.
It's one of these things where, okay, so Paladin is able to put out a lot of damage over a long period of time, but if the N'Zoth Paladin can stabilize, then obviously they just win from that point.
And so Noblord's Paladin also contains 2 Ivory Knights, but we see he's going for the Druid, and this is not fun matchup. This is very hard. What I was saying is basically the Druid can keep pace, which you would think would be good for the longest times, start making its Jades bigger. It just runs into trouble with things like, how do you deal with a Deathwing? It runs into trouble with the 4th time the Paladin puts 5 or 6 minions on the board. It just gets boring if you're the Druid. It's like you killed everything, they just keep coming back. And it makes it so difficult, but an Innovate start is definitely something that will help Noblord out, assuming his hand improves.
Now, this does kind of explain, once again, why we've seen so many Paladin bans as well as so many Shaman bans. Richwebz's Paladin seems to line up very well in front of Noblord's entire lineup. It's going to be hard for Noblord to come back from this.
Yeah, I don't think he'll have got to the top 8, though, without beating some Paladins along the way.
Of course.
So maybe he has some good ways of winning this particular matchup. Again, it's not a matchup I enjoy as Jade, but I am not Noblord, and I'm sure he has something lined up to keep control of these multiple boards.
The main problem with Jade Druid against a deck like this Paladin is that the Paladin Murlocs end up with more than 1 health, usually, after they've been buffed a few times, maybe more than 2 health even. And Druid struggle with AoE, and they struggle with removal. They've got Swipe. which most minions it only deals 1 damage to. That's great. That's just not enough. Later on, Primordial Drake, which, yeah, that deals 2 damage to all minions, which might be enough, but that requires Noblord to get to turn 8 and still be in a comfortable position, which he probably won't be.
He might not get to turn 4 looking at this opening hand if he doesn't pick up a bit more removal. Wrath is actually going to be key here if he can pick that up to deal with the War Leader. Same with Feral Rage, basically does the same job. Obviously, you like to get both those and curve into them. Noblord has tools to work with, though. He does have the Innovate Auctioneer. All the stuff you can see is good stuff. It is stuff that is hard to manage, but it may be enough to allow him to get some decent mid-game if he just doesn't get battered here at the start.
And of course, if Noblord gets to turn 10, the possibility of Yogg Saron comes up, and the game can change in some pretty dramatic ways. Turn 2 for Richwebz. Rockpool Hunter has been buffed, which makes it tempting, of course. You'd like to put a Totem Golem on the board.
Let me think.
But Hydrologist means you're not wasting the buff of the Rockpool Hunter.
Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. We've seen, especially against Pirates, we've seen player after player just play the Rockpool Hunter and forget the buff in this exact situation.
We have.
Against Druids, you do have a little bit more time, so I anticipate that he will play this Hydrologist, as there's no particular hurry. You don't mind if this minion gets wiped out. It doesn't need to challenge the board, so you can be greedier with your synergy. And again, you try and play the longer game here as a Paladin. Also, you try to get yourself some sustain if it goes to the longer game. You don't want it to go there, but if it does, you are fine just to get a getaway Kodo for another Curator, another Tyrion, or even just another War Leader.
But now next turn, Richwebz is going to be in a great position. As we can see, Noblord has no way of removing this Hydrologist, and therefore Richwebz can buff it up next turn with Rockpool Hunter, maybe squeeze down the getaway Kodo too. He could just play Murloc War Leader. That's the, I guess, the regular tempo play. Buff up the Hydrologist, essentially heal it back up to 2 health again, as Noblord has to hero power it down. Really unfortunate start for Noblord, honestly. And now, Valfin Inquisitor fits this curve so nicely.
Yeah, it really does. Noblord, understanding this so well, though, he knew that his hand is good enough, and all he needs is mana. So he makes the unconventional play of Innovate into Nourish, which means that for the next few turns, he is going to be ahead on mana, and he has the cards to abuse that mana. The other side of it, as you've just pointed out, Richwebz has the tempo on his side. So we have the value on the side of Noblord, the tempo on the side of Richwebz. That is what Hearthstone's all about, is the clash of those two things. But I think that Noblord might be okay with the amount of value he's going to get from this extra mana.
Let me think.
Right, well, J Behemoth next turn does seem like it's going to fit nicely. However, this board of Richwebz is very wide, and if Noblord does just play J Behemoth, there is a certain 3-mana Murloc in Richwebz's hand, which would, I think, punish some decisions a little bit.
Yeah, going to be a tricky turn for Noblord. Let's see what he has planned. I think when he nourished last turn, he just planned on playing as much stuff as possible. He had the Behemoth as a backup if the spam didn't happen. He has the swipe if the spam does happen, and he just tied it up lovely. He had the 2 options available to him, which made that nourish so good.
Richwebz, though, probably still going to feel comfortable to just drop the Murloc War Leader. He hasn't seen a Wrath yet, and he would have seen a Wrath earlier if it was in the hand. A swipe has just been used, and if this card sticks, especially with that hero power available, it causes chaos. I like Murloc War Leader coin hero power here.
I wonder.
Yep, the downside of that is you take away Coin Spite Ridge Steed from the turn after. That's a decision he does need to go with. So he could choose to go with War Leader and Getaway Kodo, just to present a headache to Noblord, especially the way, if Noblord does have Wrath, then what do you Wrath? Do you give them, do you play on Getaway Kodo? Do you play around Redemption? What do you do? And so the secret, even though it's not the ideal secret for the job, is ideal in the situation, just to play any secret.
The only thing I don't like about this play is that, and again, cast a curse, I can see the hand of Noblord's, but Richwebz kind of plays into Jade Behemoth. His board trades very inefficiently against it. He'd have to sacrifice the Murloc War Leader, and Spike Ridge Steed doesn't actually help these trades at all.
Wonder what he'll go with. Now he has picked up Aya.
Yeah.
Aya's, the reason Aya's often great before the Behemoth is twofold. First of all, the Aya will help you protect a bigger minion with your Behemoth when you play it. So the Behemoth does the job of protecting the baby elephant, the baby Jade, whatever you want to call it. And secondly, the later you play your Behemoth, the more damage it tends to absorb because your opponent tends to have bigger minions on the board.
Vine Cleaver in Richwebz Paladin. We've seen a little bit of this over the last weekend. The card is very, very strong as you get mid to late game.
It's just so good with Deathwing. When you're playing Deathwing,
Yeah.
you're emptying your hand of resources. If you've got a Vine Cleaver, you've got a way of keeping the board going big. And while your opponent's scrambling to deal with Deathwing, they're still having to deal with all the other stuff.
This board that Noblord has presented, I agree with you on the Ire. It makes sense to make the Jade Golem bigger for when there's a taunt defending it, but Richwebz can now just put his 1 mana 3/3 into Ire and get rid of it. He can then buff something up, get rid of the other Jade Golem and continue smacking the face. Or, okay,
That's where he's going with
that
it.
works too.
Noblord trying to get to this place where he can play Fandral and Nourish on turn 9. Ever since he picked up that second Nourish, that's been his plan, and he's finding ways to do that. Feral Rage, a really big pickup here, is going to enable a lot of damage to be done.
However, Noblord still hasn't picked up a single Wrath this game. And I think that's his major downfall. He hasn't been able to hit a Rockpool Hunter. He hasn't been able to hit a Murloc War Leader. And these Murlocs, especially with Spike Rich Steed, are going out of control.
Yeah, I think we might see Fandral sooner rather than later, but Noblord being patient enough. Himself one more turn, and then next turn he will have Fandral into Nourish available. And not so good, of course, on turn 9 in general, but it's still handy to be able to Nourish into that Wrath that he's looking for.
We're getting very close to lethal if we are Richwebz right now. Blessing of Kings just buffs up Murloc War Leader even more. Valfin Inquisitor can just go straight to the face, leaving Noblord with 8 health left. Is Richwebz about to take his second win of the series, getting him one step closer to top 4?
It depends if this is going to hold off this Feral Rage with Fandral. Is it enough? It's really close for him to not hang on here. I mean, Noblord can still get out of this. There will be double Earthen Scales in his deck. If he can survive for 1 or 2 turns somehow, and he will actually be in a position to fight back at least temporarily because his hand is full of value, but it's just not getting there quite in time at the moment.
What's even scarier is that Richwebz now has Valfin Inquisitor back in hand. It means that when he wants to, he can Hero Power, play the Valfin Hero Power again. And because of that Murloc War Leader, his
no
Murlocs
help.
are huge.
He felt the Feral Rage was just delaying the inevitable, so he went for the Nourish, didn't pick up anything of help there at all. And Richwebz with this Paladin deck, 2-0 ahead. And obviously, the old meme for LHS, if you're 2-0 down, it's because you've just lost the matchup you wanted to play.
But Neil, I want to see Easy Big Easy Druid.
Well, if Richwebz wins this match, you'll get another chance later.
Okay, that's true.
And if he doesn't win this match, you'll see it.
I'll let him off then. Yeah, right?
So either way, you're going to be good, I
need
feel.
you to lose, Richwebz. I want to see you Druid.
It's not very nice.
It's not very nice.
Especially when you're asking something from him. I want to do this. Can you lose for me?
On the other side of things, though, Noblord now reduced to only his N'Zoth Paladin. Just needs to survive. It can win this matchup if it can survive. Turn 2 Doomsayer or turn 1 with Coin Doomsayer even, vital.
Yeah, there's plenty of ways of surviving. Interesting point, I don't know if I mentioned it, I was going to mention it, but I didn't get around to. He's playing double Ivory Knight and no card draw. I know that Orange goes very different when he plays N'Zoth Paladin. He likes lots of card draw with Acolyte of Pains, with Loot Hoarders. Noblord's going for double Ivory Knight, which is much later game card replacement.
I'm looking at this deck list, and it looks like it's very, very strong against Mage. There's 2 Forbidden Healings, 2 Ivory Knights again. They represent healing, Ragnarus Lightlord, and Harrison Jones to get rid of that Atiesh.
Yeah, he's going to have all the time he wants. You said it's about getting time, getting to that end game. Plenty of ways to get there. Not many ways of winning a game of Hearthstone. If you're going to win this, it's going to take you forever.
And forever is an amount of time that Noblord may just not have. I like him throwing away everything. He wants Doomsayer. He even wants maybe Consecration Pyromancers. There's the Doomsayer. So now, on turn 2, or even on turn 1 with the coin, depending on how Richwebz starts, he can throw that down and buy himself so much more time.
Yeah, Rallying Blade behind it as well, Consecration. Lots of ways for this deck to work, and he's drawn a lot of them.
Meanwhile, Richwebz, no 1-drop, which means Noblord's not even going to have to play the Doomsayer on turn 2. As a general rule, You do play it with the coin on turn 1. If your opponent's just put down a Murloc Tidecaller, maybe a Valfin Inquisitor, things that can be buffed up and end up destroying the Doomsayer early. But there's nothing in Richwebz' hand to put down here.
Also worth keeping an eye on Richwebz, just his body language in general. He's been absolutely on point so far, just concentrating on the game, no signs of nerves. But now he's 2-0 up in a quarterfinals. It's about when you start thinking, if you can't turn off that part of your brain that sort of thinks about things it shouldn't be, is when you start thinking, hey, I'm looking like I'm getting to the semi-finals.
Right.
You need to shut that bit of your brain down. And so far, at least outwardly, there is no signs that he is letting up. He looks like he's really, really focused on the game.
Yeah, the problem is now is as soon as he loses one game, if he loses one game, then it's a dramatic downward spiral. You feel less comfortable, you start to stress. It's not a nice position to be in.
Yeah, the thing that players say all the time is when they go from the position of being underdog into position of being favourite, that's when it hits. I remember when Ben at DreamHack Valencia, talk about Ben a lot because we got to talk to him a lot because he's somebody that we knew really well. When it got down to the last 6 players and it was obvious that somebody relatively unknown was going to win the tournament, Ben said he didn't want to know that he was one of the best players left in. He was quite happy knowing all these big names were in and that there was no pressure on him. And suddenly he became almost the biggest name left in the tournament as soon as Fluffy and somebody else got eliminated.
Very interested in the fact that Richwebz decided to go with the 1-drop there rather than the Hydrologist. I can't help but think that he wanted the buff on the Murloc Warleader so that on turn 3 he could put that down and create the biggest board possible here. Unfortunately, it hit the Hydrologist. I guess he can still take advantage of that next turn if he wants to play Hydrologist plus Noble Sacrifice, maybe, or Redemption. Now the Doomsayer comes down.
Yeah, Noblord was going through the options there, trying upon try to make the Doomlord, the Doomsayer last one more turn. You want to play it as late as physically possible, but the Murlocs just have too much synergy. They can take over and do 7 damage so easily that this is the latest you dare play it.
Right.
His follow-up's not great next turn, although he will have Hydrologist. But all that thinking is about, can I just not play it now? The longer you can delay it, the more stuff you can kill.
I think Hydrologist plus Secret or Rallying Blade is actually okay as a follow-up from Noblord here. It's been timed well, as we can see. Richwebz can't do anything this turn. He doesn't want to play the Hydrologist. It just got buffed. What a waste that would be to just throw it away to get the Secret.
Yeah, there's not many cards you can throw into a Doomsayer in general. You know, cards like Aya you sometimes do against certain decks. And something like Stonehill Defender you sometimes throw away to make sure you keep the tempo of the game going, get your 3 mana's worth, because only a 1/4 you're chucking away in terms, you get your 3 mana bonus out of it.
Right.
But yeah, nothing to do there, just having to wait. And Noblord, gaining minion control when you are a control deck is always a huge boon. It's a huge advantage to what you want because you're trying to control your spells. If your minions get some work done, that's great.
All right. Rockpool Hunter makes Richwebz' hand look a little bit more efficient here. He's got a Hydrologist into Rockpool Hunter if he wants to. Curves out very nicely, buffs up the Hydrologist even more. It's going to become a 4/4 if played with the Rockpool Hunter this turn, and maybe that sets up for a Murloc Warleader or a Gentle Megasaur next turn.
Yeah, choices are not the best here. I guess Repentance can be used much, much later. Well, he said this game might go quite a long time. Repentance on Tyrion correctly used later. Repentance on War Leaders, those cards are usually good.
Well, as soon as Equality is picked up from Noblord, he's going to feel a lot safer. He's already got the Consecration to combo it with. And don't forget, Ivory Knight is capable of discovering an Equality.
Yeah, Ivory Knight, an interesting card because its healing used to be a big part of its functionality, and that's gone well down with the removal of anything. Ivory Knight sort of took a big beating in terms of the average healing it gives you.
Right.
But
they're still Dynasize.
The Discover's pretty good, and they're still Dynasize.
Lay on Hands also another huge one. That gives you a lot of healing.
It really does.
Well,
16 points of heal. That is indeed a lot.
Well, the Hydrologist survived last turn. Gentle Megasaur is actually something that may be worth considering. Megasaur with Noble Sacrifice, maybe put Wind Fury. There it is. Death Rattle's gotta be one to think about too, though.
Yeah, maintaining board can be a lot more important than just the raw damage. against control, but
At the same time, this is a game that Richwebz wants to win quickly before Noblord gets the chance to stabilize. So I do like the Wind Fury here.
it's a lot of damage and it does force an answer. Yeah, he doesn't know. I don't know. Feel that Wind Fury is... Which one of those is going to get the most damage done? Which one of those is going to deplete the most resources? And yeah, he's going to go with this, which is a way of defending the Wind Fury. And that might work out nicely for him.
Well, based on the board as we see it at the moment, it looks good. Actually making the trade there kind of risky because now with Redemption, Noblord is going to be able to get rid of the Hydrologist. I'm surprised. I expected if Wind Fury was picked up, everything to be smacking the face. Now Noble Sacrifice does not protect the Hydrologist.
Noblord doing it this way around.
That's fine, he takes less face damage.
Yeah. And the way the play was made, it was reasonably clear what the secret was going to be. And now he just gets to protect his minion on board. And he's in a really good spot.
Hydrologist survives, though, if he's making this trade. Is that... Okay. I prefer this, just in case something funny did happen with the Wind Fury there.
Yeah, you've got to kill off the things you get. You keep your minions going.
You also
and
get rid of the Murloc because there's a Murloc War Leader in the hand, which could buff it up, and the Wind Fury would take it out of control.
challenging the Megasaur and removing everything else seems good to me. And Noblord is not dying anytime soon with that hand. You said how much healing he had against Mage. It's going to be fine. Forbidden Healing is good as well. You can work it in around the rest of the minions when you finally do pick something up. But we have stated getting control for the N'Zoth Paladin sometimes isn't enough. It doesn't have a way of killing the opponent quickly, so your opponent does get a chance to build another board sometimes.
And the problem with this mid-range Paladin deck is that it just comes out with more and more and more and more stuff to hit you with. Tyrion comes out, Stonehill Defender comes out, gives you another Tyrion, then there's another Ashbringer smacking you in the face for 15. It just goes on and on. Although, this isn't the best Stonehill Defender.
Just looking through here, I'm wondering if Noblord actually played the Jade Druid last time because he doesn't want to run it into the Big Druid. He probably thought it had more chance of beating Paladin than it did of beating Big Druid anyway, so okay. He may have thought this was a slightly better matchup for him, but not wanting to... I mean, Jade Druid into Big Druid, it's just like bringing a knife to a gunfight. It just doesn't go well.
Risky way of deciding to play your lineup, but it's ended here for Noblord. He has to win 3 times with the N'Zoth Paladin. Oof. None of those cards seem helpful whatsoever.
Portal allow him to get stuff on the board.
Yep, could be a Doomsayer.
Stuff on the board is
Could be a Millhouse.
Could be a Millhouse.
I think that's one of the major problems with Silvermoon Portal. You don't want to play a card that buffs one of your minions that has a chance to summon Doomsayer. It's just, the potential of that low roll is just too severe to consider running the card.
I think it's a card we're going to have to get used to. I think at some point the Megasaur quest will become a thing.
Yep.
And this is a card we will see a lot of at some point in the next 18 months.
Maybe.
Not saying it'll be anytime soon. It's just one of those cards that you don't need many more Paladin buffs for that to become a deck.
Portal Shredder.
Let me
Silence
think.
Portal? I don't know.
So Richwebz has a whole bunch of synergy in his hand. Obviously has the Murloc synergy, but there's synergy between Tarim and Vinecleaver, for instance, as well. He is going to be able to present several boards, like we talked about at the start, that are going to be threatening to Noblord, and Noblord is now going to have to find way after way of removing them. The first one's going to be pretty easy, because he has Primordial Drake in his hand.
Yeah, and he's got Consecration as well. I think he has to just go ahead and do this now. The fact that Sunkeeper Tarim is sitting there in hand.
Yeah.
It's just horrible news.
Yeah, this second board is going to be pretty easily set up here for Richwebz.
Just smack the Vinecleaver in again. Richwebz could just Hero Power and play Tarim now.
I mean, that's a distinct possibility. You just put 3 more 3/3s on the board. You've just seen the Consecration go. There's a decent chance that Noblord just can't deal with it efficiently.
It's that or Tyrion this turn, right?
I wonder.
So you could Tyrion this turn, smacking the Vinecleaver. Next turn, play Tarim, sacrifice the Tyrion, and then... Well, no, sorry, sacrifice the Tyrion, then play Tarim.
Yeah, it depends what you want from this Vine Cleaver. Depends. As soon as you play Tyrion, you often expect it to just get killed or removed or turn into something. And you have to be prepared to lose your weapon.
The reason I like this is because Noblord has such a low chance of actually removing Tyrion this turn.
Yeah, he's not playing Kodo in his deck. Just having a look through, so there's no Outdoor Peacekeeper Kodo.
And even
combo.
then, there's 2 other 1/1s. He'd have to trade in the weapon first and then play a quality Pyromancer or something. And that's a lot of resources to be using up on 1 Tyrion.
Just note that Harrison Jones came to hand here, though. That's going to be so handy for this Ashspring. And this means Tyrion now is a priority. I mean, it's a priority target anyway, but sometimes you kill the Tyrion, the Ashspring, it hurts you anyway, so you have to do other things. But now if he gets rid of the Tyrion, Harrison's going to clean up the mess. He does that well, actually. He cleans up a lot of mess. Sticks it in museums.
Puts things back in museums, exactly. So I don't mind the Tarim here. For example, you hit Tyrion in first, you hit the Vine Cleaver in, Hero Power, Murloc Tidecaller, Tarim. It depends how all in you want to go, though. Richwebz may feel that Noblord does have a board color available to him, though he's used up a Consecration already, he's used up a Primordial Drake already. The potential combinations are reducing every turn.
Yeah, Rich has done a good job of not having too much going on in any single turn, which means that he's constantly challenging Noblord to be inefficient. And yeah, just making the biggest board we've seen him make now, 5 minions wide.
Maybe he's trying to set up for a surprise lethal later with the Tarim.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be much of a shock, to be fair, but he is just... It's like Bloodlust for Shaman. You go wide, you threaten it, you keep threatening it, eventually it happens, except like Tarim's a pretty bad Bloodlust, let's face it.
It's somewhat risky here because now he's used up the Vine Cleaver. It's not as likely that Tarim is definitely going to get value.
He had to use it up though, otherwise Tyrion just replaces it, so he didn't have an option in that. That was the decision he made when he played the Tyrion.
What I mean is that he may have wanted to consider playing Tarim that turn.
Sure.
He didn't. He's holding onto his resources. He's playing around an equality.
I see, yeah. Yeah, that's absolutely right.
Now there's a Pyromancer, but still no equality for Noblord.
It's fine. We're going to get the healing to do a lot of work here. Not panicking, just healing up for 4. I've seen situations where healing for 0 is correct with that card sometimes.
For Pyromancer's sake, absolutely. Now, things aren't looking as good for Richwebz, and again, it's because he's got no Vine Cleaver. It's because he's got no way of generating lots of tokens anymore.
Yeah, that Harrison was very timely indeed for Noblord. Just at the point where things were starting to get a little bit exciting for him, he manages to get Harrison, which pulls in the Pyromancer, and suddenly the game swings in his favor.
Obviously, Wicker Flame plus Spike-Witch Steed do have a little bit of synergy together. Wicker Flame gains more health. It has Life Steal, right? It's going to have the new keyword in the next expansion, where every bit of damage it deals, it then heals back to the hero again. So buffing it up with the Spike-Witch Steed means that it's going to be healing for 4 each time, not 2. The problem is, Consecration doesn't quite deal with Harrison. If it did, this would be a really easy turn.
Noblord just says, nods his head and says, yep, as soon as that came down. So I don't know if that means, yep, I expect it. There's more of a, yep, I know what to do about this. He seems like he spent the whole of Richweb's turn planning something, and the yep was like, okay, good, this is what I thought was going to happen.
We're going to get to the point soon where when Noblord puts down Tyrion, Richwebz just can't contest with it. And then, when Noblord gets over that hurdle, then finally he puts himself in a good position for the rest of the game.
I think Noblord's more animated here than he is when he streams. Honestly, it's like, can we get him mic'd up and just put him out there instead of us? I'm sure people would love that.
Twitch chat would love that.
Indeed, I think we need him mic'd up for the next tournament, guys. Well, a wealth of options here available to him. Key in these situations to still get the value out of every single thing, because Richweb's deck can just turn it around again in a hurry with his own Curator, for instance. So you may think you've got a massive advantage right now, but if you're not careful, if you don't get every last drop of value out of your deck,
that's
you
not value.
Find yourself in trouble.
That is not what I call getting every last drop of value out of your deck.
No, that's pretty rough going. Whenever one of those cards is not yellow, you're having a bad time.
Noblord. He's kind of squeezing out Richwebz, though, because Richwebz is running out of value. And as you said, he does have the Curator that he may draw later on. But until then, he's got nothing he can play, really.
Yeah, and importantly, he's still keeping all the big stuff back. There's still Tyrion, there's still his own curator. He's managing to make these boards to get control of this game without using his key card. So if there is an emergency occurs later on, he has it covered already.
I wonder if it's go time. I think Richwebz may have to just go for it here. Murloc War Leader,
Okay.
Gentle Megasaur. We get 2 Murlocs. The Tidecaller gets buffed twice.
What's your plan? What are you trying to find with the War Leader? There's plenty of good things, I think.
The Megasaur.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to go for it. I was thinking maybe even Poisonous just to get rid
Sure.
of Zone Defender quickly.
Looks
but
like he's going to clear up quite a bit of this board.
So putting the War Leader down now does mean that Murloc Tidecaller single-handedly gets rid of the Stonehill Defender, but it also sacrifices it, which may just be necessary. In fact, it looks like it's the only way of clearing it away, so I think it is just necessary.
Yeah, not picking up an Inquisitor has hurt Richwebz in this game.
It has.
Just ruined his synergy for the whole game. He's held onto this for as long as he can. It's just not happening for him. And now he's in the awkward position where you're trying to fight back against the minions of a control deck.
Even the way Richwebz is moving his mouse in this game, it's so slow, it's so careful, it's so calculated. It's just something extra I've noticed there.
Yeah, I'm just really impressed by his whole demeanor.
Yeah.
First time in the spotlight and just coping with it, like he kept saying, like he just belongs here. So good on him. And 2-0 lead, showing that it's working out well. And this is now the point where we find out why Noblord's been holding on to stuff so long. Deathwing, of course, a massive threat, but pretty rubbish against taunts.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good against the taunts already present on the board, but it's rubbish against taunts that are present in Noblord's hand.
Yes.
Ready to tank that 12 damage over time.
I know what's going to be good in a few turns' time, and that's N'Zoth.
Looks like it.
Tyrion, Cairn, already being played.
And Redemption, sitting pretty in Noblord's hand. If he can get that down and force Richwebz to kill Tyrion,
Yeah.
have it redeemed.
All right, it's Murloc time. It's the go time you were talking about. There's only one Murloc there.
Okay, well, it's not Wind Fury, because the War Leader will have no way of attacking twice. I think it's just Death Rattle. I guess it could be Divine Shield. Divine Shield's not bad, actually. It means the War Leader survives, and I think you'd rather have a War Leader alive than 2 1-1s.
It's interesting, though. You've got no Murlocs, and you do have Tarim, so it's closer than it normally would be.
But Richwebz is actually 1 damage off of killing Tyrion anyway, which is a problem.
And he wasn't sure either. He just flicked between the two. Yeah, you can't kill the Tyrion now. And he actually went with the plants, figuring that his Murloc synergy is all but dry, whereas Tarim is in his hand and ready to buff some things up.
Got to admit, Neil, I think that Noblord is over the hump now. He's gotten through the hard part of this game. He has Pyromancer. He has he has several cheap spells that he can play. He's got Ken, the Curator. He's got a lot of late game last ability, and he is going to be able to beat this Deathwing.
Yeah, looking like he's just going to slowly, tortuously grind out the advantage here. Obviously, he can match hero power for hero power. That's something that sometimes is a problem for other control decks that aren't paladins. Late game, like Warrior, just doesn't really like paladins making 1-1s every turn. But nothing I can think of that makes this difficult for Noblord, as long as he just keeps those taunts in his hand for the potential Deathwing. Yeah, and the end is going to come reasonably quickly. I say that quite often this deck struggles to put enough down to win the game, and it's going to struggle a little bit here, but if the Deathwing is played, but
Finally,
it's going to get it done.
Finally, the Valfin Inquisitor gets picked up, though. So it means that Richwebz can maybe go for one last push before the Deathwing. He can go Hero Power, Inquisitor, Hero Power. Unfortunately, he's then 1 mana short to play the Tarim. So it's not perfect, it's not ideal.
Yeah, he's still got all this stuff he has to get through as well. From where he's sat, he's trying to squeak through his last 11 damage, and maybe there's a chance. From where we're sat, Noblord's actually on 31.
Yeah, that's not actually possible.
I wonder.
But yes, he's a long way away from being dead just yet.
Yep. He's got all the answers. He's got the answers to Deathwing. He's got the answers to a sudden rush.
So I guess it has to be just Hero Power, Inquisitor, Tarim. I mean, preferably the other way around. It would have been correct to... Oh, no, he's not going to play Tarim. Oh. Were you expecting the Tarim?
I wasn't sure. I mean, this is just such an awful situation for Rich. If you get the extra value from your extra hero power, then it might work out. But there's a Pyromancer on board against a deck full of spells. I think maybe you want to just get the Tarim down there and then build up the Deathwing the turn after. Just empty your hand ready for Deathwing. You know you're in trouble.
Luckily for Richwebz, no extra Tyrion present, though the Curator, actually Wicker Flame, I think, don't look bad at all here. Imagine Wicker Flame versus Deathwing.
Yeah.
Wicker Flame wins that fight.
He does. I think Wicker Flame is the right pick. Again, you're just covering all the bases. You're making sure that no emergencies arise that you're not expecting, and this is just covered everything, and it's just going to be a matter of time now. Obviously, Richwebz needs to play on. He has Deathwing on his hand and his opponent's on 11. In your mind, that's a pretty good combo of two things that you want to happen.
And don't forget, everyone watching back home, these deck lists are open now. Noblord knows he's playing around Deathwing.
Yeah.
He knows that's exactly what he's doing. Richwebz knows Noblord's playing around Deathwing.
It's just, Noblord actually does play down the Wicker Flame. Is that putting lethal down? Is that why? No, he's got lethal anyway.
It's fine, though, because Deathwing comes down, the Curator contested anyway. There's
Sure.
still Forbidden Healing. There's still the weapon. There's still a 2-2 that comes... Wait, actually, is this lethal even after Deathwing, though?
It's got to be close.
Nah, not quite.
Let me think.
And this is where I feel that maybe last turn the Tarim would have been correct, because you're still looking at Deathwing anyway now.
Yeah.
And that means the Tarim gets wasted.
It's, to clarify, Noblord will have 11 damage present if Deathwing comes down this turn. That's the 5 damage from the Ashbringer, the 2 damage from the Infested Tauren Slime, and the 4 damage from Bane Bloodhoof. That's 11, that's not quite 14. So Deathwing is still safe for Richwebz to play, but it doesn't look like it's going to be winning him any games anytime soon.
Yeah, I think you just could have used if you use the Tarim last turn, then it sets up. It makes this a lot easier because you use up some of your opponent's resources in dealing with all the 3/3s. Not a huge amount of resources. I mean, he was in a damned either way situation. He was in a really bad spot. Let's not get this wrong here, but you know, if he's going to end up having to Deathwing anyway, you might as well get the use out of your Tarim. He's just thrown Tarim away now. So yeah, I feel that was a small misplay there, personally.
And equality picked up off the top from Noblord, exactly what he needs to guarantee this Deathwing isn't going to cause him any more problems. Curator comes down as 1 extra taunt, as if Noblord even needed it. Richwebz has well and truly been locked out of this game, and he's taking his first loss this series, and this is what Lorinda and I were talking about a minute ago. Now he's going to start to get stressed. Maybe he was feeling comfortable before.
And
now,
you're the most positive person I've ever met, Dan, and I've never seen you so happy to see somebody lose a game of Hearthstone.
I want to see Easy Big Easy Drew.
I know you do. It's entertaining to me for the first time in your life wishing ill up on somebody. I know you want him to win everything anyway, really, especially as you picked him.
I did pick him.
But you want to see this deck.
I'd have happily seen the sweep in terms of caster picks for this matchup. And he may not pick the Druid next, although the Druid does seem like a pretty good bet to pick Paladin. Essentially, Richweb's pick order doesn't matter here.
Yeah, the one thing that does matter
open,
is if you're going to try... So it matters not at all in terms of the maths of the game.
Yeah.
But it does matter in terms of if you win this match, you've got to play 2 more matches today, if you win the tournament at least.
Right.
And so you want to get this over with. So a lot of players suggest that you pick your more favoured matchup first, which means if you do win, you just get a longer break.
Right. Fatigue is important for the players in these games, especially when we get towards the finals.
Druid. And yeah, and the last bit of the day yesterday as well, just going into that, is you've played all those rounds of Swiss, and then you have to go into the top 16. It's definitely a long, hard day if you bring a lot of control decks, and Noblord has done that.
So for anyone that doesn't actually know what Big Druid is, it's a Druid deck that runs a lot of big cards. I'm looking at the 10 drops specifically right now. It runs Deathwing, it runs Yeshuraj, it runs Deathwing Dragonlord. 9 drops, Ysera. 8 drops, Primordial Drakes. 7 drops, Ancient of War, the Curator, Giant Anaconda. It runs a lot of big minions.
Yeah, one of the genius parts about the deck for me is the Moonglade portals. They're a way of generating big minions without messing with your Anaconda.
Yeah.
You don't really want to pull something mediocre, but you do want something in that 6-drop slot to just begin the pressure, because they keep the pressure coming, but to start the pressure coming.
That's another thing that makes the Curator so good in this deck.
Right, they managed to keep these 4 attack minions and minions that aren't minions on the board.
One of the most interesting things about this deck to me is that it always runs one copy of Ironbeak Owl.
Yeah, I've just highlighted that myself, actually, yeah.
Which is great because it synergizes with the Curator. But it's so weird because it's so much weaker than Spellbreaker.
But it synergizes so well with Barnes.
Barnes too.
It's absolutely silly. You get it from Curator, you Barnes into anything, you make it back into a big minion again, because Barnes does apply an effect to the minion it pulls out. It turns it into a 1/1, which means it can be silenced back to its original form, other than if it does have an effect, which most of these don't, you of course do silence that as well.
Not to be confused with it synergizing well with Barnes by Barnes summoning it. That is not what you want.
1/1 Ironbeak Owl is a very sad state of affairs.
Slow start, though, for both decks, as you'd expect. This is going to be one of the longer games in the series. Richwebz just going to ramp up as quickly as he possibly can. Doesn't really need the Tar Creeper in this matchup until much later to defend from swinging Ashbringer and things like that.
I feel that getting a Deathwing Dragonlord could be important much further down the line here. That's one way of getting around Equality Consecration. They Equality Consecrate. You get a whole board of stuff again. And a Deathwing Dragonlord will be one of the key things to do here if it pulls out a Sarah, a Deathwing. And like you say, this is going to go some time. And because of that, I don't think Noblord will mind this slow opening hand. It's got a lot of things he could do later in the game.
Is it Barnes time, Lorinda?
Well, Barnes into Yashiraj is definitely a way to put some pressure on.
Barnes is a Yashiraj is about to happen. Are you calling it now?
No. I'm definitely not calling that. That would be amazing to see happen.
Now if it happens, you'll feel silly. What are the alternatives this play? Tar Creeper?
Yeah, just do nothing is sometimes an alternative in this sort of deck.
Okay, well that's not great.
1/1 Primordial Drake, nice silence available, so that's a whiff. Develop.
I mean, let's be honest, there weren't many good outcomes here. Even Deathwing Dragonlord, apart from playing a few mind games, wasn't going to achieve anything. There are no dragons in Richwebz's hand. Sunkeeper Tarium seems like a snap pick to me.
Yeah, I mean, how do you deal with a 12-12? It's much easier if it's a 3-3, I tell you that much.
Yeah.
Even my maths can tell you that. 3-3 is obviously just so easy to deal with, and Tarium does that job so well.
Actually, this Paladin deck has a lot of ways of dealing with the big minions. Double Sunkeeper Tarium now, because obviously there's the natural one that was already in the deck. Qualities.
Even Outdoor Peacekeeper slows it down. In fact, sometimes Outdoor Peacekeeper is the best option. I was talking about Deathwing Dragonlord. Leaving it hanging around as a 1/12 is one way to just completely shut it down from the thing it's trying to do.
Yeah. That's almost the same as Giant Anaconda, but the problem is the Anaconda only has 3 health, so it's almost impossible to stop that thing from suiciding forever. But the Anaconda's interesting because the person that plays it doesn't want to make the trade because they'd rather their opponent made the trade so that the minion it summons gets charged.
Yep.
But if it comes out on your own turn, obviously it suffers from not being able to attack.
And it's key points like that that give you an advantage in a tournament like this when you do play something a little bit off the wall. You've played this deck, if you'll bring it to a tournament, hundreds of times.
Yep.
But your opponents haven't played against it hardly at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of the top players, people like Noblord will know exactly all the stuff you're talking about and more. That's just how top players work. They know all the interactions.
Of course.
But mid-level players have only practiced the good decks against the good decks, if you like, the tier 1s against the tier 1s.
A lot of players will have only practiced on the ladder.
Or practice on the ladder.
Not the pro players, but
Yeah.
a lot of the mid-tier players that we've seen in this tournament so far.
And you run into a deck like Big Druid, and you haven't playtested against it more than 10 games. You don't know all these interactions, whereas Rich has. I know that something that Orange was talking about after he won in Sweden was they make sure that not only do they playtest in their playtest group, but then they all go away and play open cups and come back and report and say, oh, we haven't playtested this matchup because I played against an open cup. We're going to find this deck. And they go and practice whatever it is they've missed out.
Smart. Repentance also pretty smart in this matchup. So many minions with so much health. Ysera with 12, Deathwings with 12, Yashiraj with 10. Repentance should get some work done, or it may hit an Ironbeak Owl.
Right. This is the curse of this particular Druid deck, by the way. Sometimes you go Nourishers and Wild Growths and such like, and you get to 10 mana really quickly with loads of stuff to do. And sometimes you draw a handful of absolute garbage, like he's done right now. It is a case of when half your deck is trying to do one thing, which is ramp, and the other half is trying to be the stuff you ramp into. Sometimes you just don't draw the right match.
Whoa, did you see that swipe? To play around certain secrets, Richwebz just swiped to 1-1.
Sure.
When there was a 1-4 on the board. Obviously, he didn't want the 1-4 to come back to life and get getaway codoed to give Noblord more value. But look at the mind games that Secrets just did. It made Richwebz make a play which seems horrible.
Thinking about that, though, I mean, what is Swipe actually doing in this deck? If you're hitting someone with 12-12s, the 4 damage is kind of irrelevant.
Of course.
If your opponent's playing 4-5s, if he's playing 6-6s, obviously it's good at busting Divine Shield, and it's good at killing Ivory Knights, for instance.
Yeah.
But Swipe's not particularly gigantic, so getting that little bit of value there is definitely a thing. Like you say, 1 mana secret doing its job.
Well, there's a very obvious spell here that Paladins usually always would love an extra copy of, and it's not Blessed Champion. Does the 1 point of health make a difference? I don't think so. Does the card draw make a difference? Maybe.
I mean, the Noblord is one of those players who likes his card draw. A lot of these players who play Control swear by the card draw. He already has 1 Consecration. I think he'll end up taking Consecration because trying to make a cute play on the rope is often the thing you don't want to do. He's taking the Holy Wrath. Good man.
Okay.
I'd like to see this. And Richwebz has no idea what that card is because Noblord was not on a low enough health total to gain the full amount of health.
Repentance is going to hit the Iron Beak Owl. Called it. It's going to happen. Iron Beak Owl going to come down to deal with Tyrion next turn.
Lord of the Arena. Pretty much in the middle of things.
That's fine. I think the average 6-mana minion is around 5/5, getting the
Yeah,
extra.
it's got to be. Sottle always says there's 30 stats for 3 of them, so that makes them 5/5s.
6/5, so just ever so slightly above average. There's N'Zoth. We didn't see it in the last game, but we haven't seen any dead death rattles yet this game. So Noblord not going to be looking to play this old god for quite some time.
Yeah, I mean, when you say quite some time, it may be really a very long time.
Yeah.
It might just go on forever.
It might do that.
And interestingly, a lot of people don't play many Death Rattle minions with their N'Zoth. Noblord going a little bit more on the synergy route, is playing the Tauren, etc., just to have that little extra.
Is this an Earthen Scales turn? Earthen Scales up means that Richwebz can just hero power down the Bog Creeper. Nope, he's going to silence it. Okay, and that does play around the Repentance.
Noblord. Yeah, he happy, well played to his opponent there, pretty much. Doesn't say well played. Obviously, that's not how you go about it, but acknowledging that's a good play.
Doesn't say I'm sorry anymore either.
I hated that. Jaina saying I'm sorry was just made me want to rip my house down.
Oh dear.
Imagine
that's
sorry
extreme.
from Jaina with Primordial Glyph in the format. I'm sorry, Pyroblast you. Yeah, you look sorry as you're laughing while I'm taking 10 damage to the face.
As Aya appearing in the only control druid that doesn't run Jades. Good job, Moonglade Portal.
It's actually a pretty decent card here.
Yeah.
But Richwebz has just run out of stuff. He still has both Nourishers to come, and he's going to need them not for their intended purpose. Intended purpose is his ramp, but he's going to need them for card draw because unless he gets some sort of Ysera very soon or Yashiraj, he is just... This deck can whiff turn after turn. It's more than capable of just doing nothing for a long time.
I'd love to say that the Curator would be a great draw here too, but unfortunately Richwebz has drawn both of his beasts.
Let me think.
So the Curator draws 1 card, one of the Deathwings, Ysera or Primordial Drake, and that's it.
That's still fine though, right? I mean, it's not bad. And looking through, actually, just having a skim through the deck list, we've got the luxury of having them in front of us here. There's the Wraths and another Swipe. There's a Bright-Eyed Scout, which wouldn't actually be that bad. There's a Starfall. And almost every other pickup is actually good for him. I don't think Cairn's that great for him.
The problem with Bright-Eyed Scout, though, is that it always draws Innovate.
That is a good point. Those 5-mana Innovates will kill you.
That's a good draw, though.
Yeah, I mean, his deck is now stacked full of stuff that is worth drawing. That is a good one.
And now Richwebz getting rid of that Repentance is going to pay off for him. Ysera, trade in the Iron Beak Owl. I think then Earthen Scales up the Aya get rid of Tyrion.
Yeah, the slow start has allowed Noblord to do that thing I was talking about last game, where his minions are getting additional value by controlling the board. They're not just being used defensively now in terms of stopping you getting slapped in the face, they're actually making Richwebz have to play off the top of his deck because Noblord is in a position where he can just kill the things. And I think getting rid of Tyrion seems like a good idea.
Actually, he could get rid of the whole board if he trades the other way. He could trade the Tar Creeper into the Divine Shield, then buff up Arya, make that trade there. Iron Cow goes into the Bog Creeper. But that plays around Tyrion as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's what he is doing. He did have to consider whether he wants to play the Anaconda, but it doesn't do anything. He's just waiting to pick up something for it to do.
Yeah.
And Noblord will almost certainly know, especially again, many players will know the coin is still in hand here, but Noblord in particular is one of those guys who can just track everything with seemingly never making those sort of mistakes.
Oh, that's not a great pull from Ysera, and now it's either equality or to rim time.
Yeah, if he could have pulled the 7-6 Drake, then he could have got the Anaconda doing its thing. And look at these hands. Like I say, it's a little bit of a false representation because all of the stuff left in Rich's deck is pretty much menacing, apart from the Innovates. But Noblord can deal with things for days. He's still got Peacekeepers to come as well. He's got to work out if Ysera presents enough of a threat to use up some of this removal now, and I think it does. Your opponent's down to 3 cards in hand and 1's a coin. I think it's a good card to get rid of.
Reporting for duty. Ungoro belongs to the site.
He agrees.
Keep a Tarim it is then. And now Richwebz needs to pick up something big immediately. Well, he needs to pick up 2 more big things. The Curator helps. The Curator fits in nicely with the Laughing Sister this turn, develops another board. Unfortunately, whatever dragon he picks up is going to get hit by equality, and then Richwebz is going to need to pick up 1 more big card after that. It's a long way to go for him to win this, and Noblord is getting closer to being able to play N'Zoth.
Yeah, the Druid wins by putting on that massive early pressure before people can deal with it. Noblord's deck is very good at going 1-for-1 with most stuff, and that's what's going to happen here, unless Richwebz gets a... Like I say, Yashiraj may enable him to present a board, which then gets Equality Consecrator, which lets the next thing survive. But the other thing that's not obvious about Big Druid is it doesn't actually play that many minions. You feel it as like it's this constant swarm of terrifying minions. Actually, there's like 4 terrifying minions.
That's true. They're just really terrifying minions.
Yeah,
And
because they come down on turn 3 and stuff.
Exactly, that's the scary thing. The meme can happen, right? Turn 3, coin barns into Yashiraj. It has been seen.
Yeah, it's been seen, all right.
But not by Richwebz this game, and now Pyromancer being picked up by Noblord means that Pyromancer equality is yet another way of clearing the board. Only 1 equality present at the moment.
And if he wins this game, Noblord is going to be against Pirate Warrior with N'Zoth Paladin. And this, I just find this amusing. The pros cannot agree on who is the favourite in that match, let alone by how much. Just crazy different estimates depending on who you talk to. And if it does come to that, it's going to be interesting to see the exact development of how this one goes out this time. And it's such a huge setting.
The thing is, N'Zoth Paladin is a very greedy control deck, and the greedier the control deck, the more they often struggle against aggro. Look at that. Noblord going for another Repentance.
Yep.
Really playing to his strengths against this deck.
It's really good fun.
If he hits an Anaconda on Richwebz, it's not the end of the world for Richwebz. What he's going to want to happen. But really, before he plays the Anaconda, he needs something worth summoning from the Anaconda. Deathwing Dragonlord would be a fantastic draw right now.
Yeah, I'm starting to wonder if Richwebz should have played this Anaconda at some point in the last 3 or 4 turns.
Sure.
It's just getting to the point where trying to get the value out of it, trying to get the tempo out of it is almost irrelevant.
Yeah.
And he actually needed some stuff on the board at some point over those last few turns. And maybe he's just held on to it a bit long. I imagine that Noblord thinks it's an Innovate. It's been there so long, put it that way.
Well, from the way that this hand is structured, though, Richwebz, if he did have the Deathwing Dragonlord, imagine it. The Anaconda dies, Deathwing Dragonlord comes out. Dragonlord dies, Primordial Drake comes out. It's a never-ending cycle. Well, it does end after that, but still.
Now another mind game begins. Richwebz is winning those parts of it. He's playing on these opponents as well. Now he has to represent that he has drawn a big minion And maybe he'll get some damage out of this Anaconda because of that if Noblord doesn't feel he can deal with what he plays. Unfortunately for Richwebz, and no surprise to Richwebz, Noblord has a handful of removal because Richwebz has not managed to put him under any pressure this game.
Yep, Noblord can deal with literally anything that Richwebz could have in his hand here. Only one card present. It just doesn't matter what it is for Noblord.
Yeah, I think Noblord will be happier when he gets a Peacekeeper in his hand.
Instant, almost a snap attack there. Hydrologist going straight into the Anaconda. And then Noblord can just decide what he wants to do about this Drake. He's going to have plenty of options. Oh.
Sure.
Hey, what? That wasn't right. Bit of missequencing there. It's better to make the trade before you play the Spike-Witch Steed. There's no reason to not get the information first.
Sure. I'm assuming you're right, yeah.
I don't think there's any benefit.
Excuse the sound, like I'm not actually dying. Don't worry. Not yet. Yeah, I can't see any reason. Just checking there isn't any reason, but I can't see one.
The irony now is that Richwebz has drawn the Deathwing Dragonlord I've been banging on about for the last 2 turns. Just a fraction too late.
What? Just trying to work out how the process of how the events have to pan out for Richwebz to win this game. So the Equality Consecration has to be removed from the hand. The N'Zoth has to get through. He has to not heal up from 11 again, which again is a key number as far as Richwebz is concerned because he's got minions that do 12. I cannot see how Richwebz can salvage this, but I can see how he thinks he might be able to because, again, it's exactly the same as the previous game. Noblord sat there on 11. And you've got 2 minions in your deck that do 12.
I can't. Is there even anything else big? Okay, so Richwebz could draw Deathwing. Clear the boards. One more time after this. But even that just isn't going to be enough. Ancient of War is one of his remaining cards.
Drawing Deathwing is handy because you play the Dragonlord, and then the turn that Noblord kills your 12-12, you get another 12-12.
Yeah, sure.
So that when your opponent's on 11, that is a way you feel you can win the game.
Yep.
But we can see if that happens, Noblord probably just heals for 20. And takes the hit, or plays a taunt, heals for 16, takes the taunt, gets the hit, and then you play N'Zoth and do it all again. But for where Richwebz is setting, that's what he'll be looking to do, is draw the Deathwing and get into that position. Whereas if he plays the Dragonlord and he just gets taken care of, then the Deathwing kind of doesn't do its thing.
My keeper not ideal at this stage in the game at all. Again, its purpose is to ramp up. Its purpose is not to develop a token on turn 10.
Yeah, this just never went the way this deck likes to go, right from early on. And Rich just doesn't want to play this right now, but he has no other choice but to try and present a threat.
Gotta do what you can. There's no point in conceding. He's come so far in this tournament already. He just needs to win one more game against Noblord to get through to top 4.
He's only got one more game.
Yeah, almost doubling his prize money, but you're right, this game is now over. Noblord's going to take his second win. There is so much on the line for this one game of Hearthstone coming up.
Yeah, for both these guys as well, we always say it is a meme. It's obvious you want to reach the semi-finals, but Richwebz looking to make a name for himself. Noblord looking to start to cement in the minds of the public. I think all the pros, all the people who commentate on the game, all the people who regularly watch streams know how great this guy is, but I feel that maybe not your average viewer at home knows much about Noblord. You know, Tesper, a lot of people didn't watch because it isn't huge. For instance, I think more in America people did, and people know who he is in the USA just because the college thing is massive over here, but maybe not so much in Europe. And
I wish we had a Tesper.
Yeah, I think we have something equivalent, but it's very, very small, the new stuff.
Ken, a card that you mentioned a few turns ago, maybe not the ideal draw for Richwebz, but it's kind of okay here. He can fill out the curve if he wants to, play everything he's got. But at the same time, he kind of wants to play mind games. He's got Deathwing Dragonlord on the board. If this card in hand is a Deathwing, or if Noblord thinks it's a Deathwing, he may make an inferior play.
Sure.
Therefore, Richwebz may just want to hold on to it. But the fact that he's taking so long to make the decision might give the game away to Noblord. If this was a Deathwing, then Hero Power Pass would have just happened pretty quick.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. He's made a bit of an error here, playing the Cairn so quickly and then thinking about the remaining 4 mana.
Exactly.
And you see how much Noblord's reasoning stuff out loud. That is definitely one of the things he'll pick up on.
Second equality
Right.
is not good news for Richwebz in the slightest.
Yeah, Maya Keeper versus a handful of control doesn't seem to be the spot you want to be in. Got to admit. And it's one of those situations where I think if Noblord could show his hand, this game would be over. But I've got all the answers, let's move on.
Yeah, we've talked about this a few times in the past. If Hearthstone had a show hand function, a lot of games would end much faster, especially back in the Reno Jackson days.
Did they happen? I thought I dreamt those.
Unfortunately, they happened.
Anyway, back in
You should go check out something called Wild, Neil.
the year of the mammoth. Sorry, did you say something?
Don't worry.
No, Wild is actually really interesting. I think Wild's a fantastic format. Reno Jackson was not the card for me.
No, I thought you loved it.
I think it was a great design. I think it was required at the time he was made.
All right, Bright-Eyed Scout, let's go. Bright-Eyed Scout into Yashiraj,
Sure,
into Deathwing.
sure. Let's do that. The Equality Consecration has gone,
Yep.
so...
That's fine. Okay, that's kind of fine. This is a better board than if Richwebz just drew the Primordial Drake. There's still a 3-2 on the board.
I sort of feel you should be the card out for Bright-Eyed Scout.
I should be the card out.
Full of energy, bright-eyed, happy all the time.
Boring innovates.
Yeah, helping everybody out. I think you should be the card art for that particular card.
That's very sweet, Neil. I'll ask Blizzard.
Yeah, I think you should. Get that done. Get on that.
Problem with Wrath is that Richwebz wants to use this to cycle every day of the week.
Yeah.
But
Including Sundays.
yeah, and today's a Sunday. But okay, another Wrath. Sure, let's cycle that too. The problem is, if he draws one of the cards he actually wants, he's not going to be able to play it this turn now anyway. Most of them cost 10 mana.
Yeah, looking at the cards he wants, there's just not many left. Again,
That's no one.
it's just one of those decks that when it doesn't do its thing early, you have to keep playing because it can have a second wind, but it's just not happening. We've said this for several turns now. But please hang on while we go through these final throws, because first of all, we've been wrong before, and secondly, Game 5 is going to be pretty exciting with the Pirates.
Richwebz wants to do everything he possibly can. The thing is, you have to remember it's an important game for him. If there's even any possibility of him winning it, he's going to play for that possibility. But the more this game goes on, the more demoralized he's going to get. But hopefully, that doesn't mean the more tilted he's going to be going into the next game.
Yeah, I think he's played a very steady game. I feel that he's just not going to tilt at all. Just pointing out that Noblord still hasn't drawn either Outdoor Peacekeeper, I'm pretty sure. Unless he's drawn like turn 2 and I've forgotten. I just don't think he's had that card. There's not many cards left in his deck.
I don't remember one being played, so I think you're right.
So just looking for, if he draws that will be game, because, I mean, we've called it game for about 6 turns. But in terms of the one remaining Deathwing as a threat, and the Yashiraj means a 10-10 threat as well as what it does, I guess.
Surrender, this game ended a long time ago. Even if Deathwing is the next draw, clears the board, N'Zoth comes out, creates another board with Tyrion, everything. Equality Consecration, just not necessary for the remainder of this game.
15 health, no heals. Only needs to do 15. Not happening, is it?
Starfall isn't going to help much at all. 5 damage to the can that has 6 health. Yeah, okay, the hero power finishes it off.
Are you happy now? You wanted to see this deck.
No, I'm not happy. One thing this game has not made me is very happy is my caster prediction for this series is dropping down to 2-2 score from 2-1. So no, unfortunately, I feel a little bit...
This might be what we need to get on to Game 5. This might be where Rich finally decides, you know what, okay, I feel like I might be behind enough to give it up. But I don't blame him if he carries on. You don't want to go home and realise that you could have won a game. But Noblord actually has lethal damage on the board as well now.
Okay, Nourish. That's going to be a tool that Richwebz maybe thinks he can use. Though, as I said a moment ago, most of the cards he wants costs more than, well, at least more than 7 mana.
Come this far, Nourish and see. 2 of these cards, one is Yashiraj, one is Deathwing.
Oh my goodness. Ancient, okay, he can innovate out Ancient of War. That buys him 1 more turn. In theory, as far as he's concerned anyway.
come this far, you might as well just do it.
Would you just play the second nourish and see exactly what order your cards have come in?
No, just do it. Put yourself down another 10 health. And die to equality, mercifully for us.
Richwebz doing everything he can to hang into this.
Yeah, why not?
I feel like in the previous game he conceded quite quickly though. Maybe I'm wrong.
Was that today?
That was today. This game hasn't been going on for quite that long.
So, Lethal with equality, we are going to be put out of our misery. And not only are we going to be put out of our misery, we're going to be put into an exciting Game 5. Noblord and Richwebz, one game of Hearthstone, a highly contested, a highly debated matchup. The Zoth Paladin versus Pirate Warrior. What do you think is going to win?
It's a really hard call, man. We talked a little bit about the difference in these guys' Pirate Warriors. We saw Noblord's earlier, and Richwebz Pirate Warrior. It does run Leroy. It does also run one Bittertide Hydra. So he's not gone the full Bittertide direction. He's kind of gone one of each. I think Leroy is helpful in this matchup.
Yep.
Because it means that the Warrior can win it faster. If on turn 5, he's already built up a board, he's already got the lethal damage, he can just go and win it there. It's another one of those matchups where it's vital that Noblord picks up Doomsayer and plays it very, very early. And if he does that, he may well complete this reverse sweep against Richwebz.
Yeah, something you highlighted earlier as well is the amount of healing in Noblord's deck. If he does...
Yep.
One thing the control decks sometimes struggle with against Pirates is they apparently stabilize, and the Pirates has one last sort of dying throw, like some horrible villain in a horror movie where he just comes back and hits you one more time.
Yeah.
And Pirates tend to do that. But this double Ivory Knight will allow Noblord, if he gets control of the game, to assert that control, to just make sure there is no final push from the bad guy.
Yeah.
Not that Rich is the bad guy, but the Pirates are the bad guy.
The Pirates are always the bad guy. We can agree on that. Pyromancer is relevant, but the rest of Noblord's hand is a little bit lacking when it comes to dealing with these early game Pirates. Rallying Blade is great at dealing with a South Sea Captain.
Yeah.
But Ken and Ivory Knight, these cards are just going to be dead for quite some time.
Yeah, Ken is just entirely dead until you start trying to get the board, which is not for you. And the Ivory Knight you don't totally cry about, but you really didn't want this exact combination going on. Richwebz has got problems of his own, however. He has no weapon, and quite often when you have no weapon as a Pirate Warrior, which happens like one game in 8 or something I've seen banded about, that can just mean you have nothing to do, because all your synergy revolves around those weapons.
Yeah, he has no weapon, but at least he does have 1/2/2. He can go deckhand, he can pull out patches, he can put a 2/3 on the board. Again, it's not ideal. With a weapon, these 2/3s would be much bigger, but it's something.
Pirates don't like River Crocs. They sink their ships.
Right.
And he's got a handful of River Crocs right now.
Okay. I thought that was
Was that convoluted enough for you?
I thought that was some sort of reference to Galactic Crawler.
It wasn't, and it probably should have
Which is a strictly better River Croc, which actually Pirates don't like. But you know what? I'll take it. I'll take it.
I probably should have saved that one for a totally different time and place.
There were multiple meanings to what you just said, Neil.
There's always multiple meanings to what I say, Dan. Apart from then, maybe. All right, so Noblord drawing that Peacekeeper is a big deal because now he can comfortably get the Rallying Blade on the go, knowing that he can deal with bigger stuff should bigger stuff arise. And he gets the good news for him now that there is almost certainly no useful weapon in Richweb's hand. Obviously, the Peacekeeper will be so good against the Bittertide going forwards.
Look at that. Pyromancer and Coin, just having to get rid of all the minions that have 1 health. And hey, it helped out a ton. But now Richwebz has a weapon. What good timing on the N'Zoth's first mate. It fits perfectly on curve here with the Bloodcell Raider. It's no longer just a River Croc.
Bloodcell Raver just has a random amount of attack after each turn.
Okay.
Yeah, going to tidy up the board, going to put himself some attack on the board, but not getting it done so far, the Pirates. And they'll be tight, and this is why this matchup is so hard to evaluate. No Doomsayer, you could say, was a thing that Noblord is entitled to have, but he's...
Mentioned it a moment ago. I said it was vital that he draws it, and he just hasn't drawn it.
But Rich is entitled to complain about the fact he had no weapon. And you play hundreds of these games, and each time whoever loses has a valid complaint that this is a likely thing to happen that didn't.
Hang on a moment now, though. Noblord has picked up a quality which goes pretty well with the Wild Pyromancer in his hand. Yes, he already had an outdoor Peacekeeper to deal with the Bitterside Hydra, but now he can deal with everything when he needs to. And that's going to help Noblord out a lot. The more this game goes on, the more I think it's slipping into the Paladin's favor. Because the thing is, when two decks have a bad start, the slower deck benefits more from that. Because the aggro deck relies on having a fast start to win the game. Whereas the control deck, if the aggro deck also had a bad start, they've got longer to stabilize, longer to get the cards they need, and longer to just prevent the aggro deck from doing anything.
Yeah, I think this turn, with that in mind, Noblord will be working back from turn 6. I want to play Ivory Knight on turn 6, onto as empty a board as possible. How do I make that happen? Can I afford to play my Rallying Blade and take some damage? You don't like doing that against Pirates, but I've got the Ivory Knight as backup. And so he'll be working from turn 6. That's what I want to do on turn 6. How do I get to that spot? Rather than working forward with what do I do this turn, he'll be starting with Ivory Knight and working back. And it looks like he feels, as long as he beat this rope, that he can take some damage and clear up the board. Use the Pyro quality as backup. Use the outdoor Peacekeeping. Didn't get the attack off.
That's not good. I thought it was wrong, but Noblord gives the game away. That was a mistake. Both players looking and laughing at each other.
Was it a mistake? I don't think Noblord is the sort of person to mind games, but was it a mistake? Because he can still take the same amount of damage, he can get Richwebz to fill up the board, he's going to go Pyro equality next turn and still have the weapon up. Was it actually a mistake?
Surrender.
Or has he just mind games the heck out of Rich?
You and Noblord are both geniuses right now. You're absolutely right. I think his head properly went down into his hands when he did it, but it's all a show. We talked yesterday about how it is different playing against someone in real life and actually having to face them. What a fantastic spot, and now Noblord back in a demanding position. Outdoor Peacekeeper going to make short work of this Bitterside Hydra.
Noblord's going to be able to take care of this, and he's going to be on such a low health total, like 13 plus weapon damage, but he's going to get the Ivory Knight down. And as long as Ivory Knight doesn't do that thing it sometimes does, where it offers you 3 secrets, Noblord should be able to get that health back. And I don't think that was a mistake on turn 4.
I agree with you. I genuinely, if I was Richwebz, I would have absolutely fallen for it. Now Richwebz gets all his weapons. Not quite coming in the order he wants them. Arcanine Reaper is capable of forcing a swing now, though. That's 5-10 damage in 2 turns. If Noblord doesn't really heal, and if he doesn't put up any taunt next turn, Richwebz could still pick up the damage to just win.
Yeah, he needs to win on turn 7, or at least have Noblord down to 4 on turn 7, so that he can pick up a Mortal Strike going forwards. Otherwise, Tyrion is going to win this game.
He runs Spellbreaker. He does run 1 copy of Spellbreaker.
Okay.
So, but I don't think he does run a copy of Mortal Strike. So it's Spellbreaker. It's the same difference, really, but the number 4 specifically doesn't matter behind the Tyrion.
And Noblord is just going through the ringer here, because this Ivory Knight is one of the biggest Ivory Knights we've seen in all of Hearthstone since it used to be, can I get my 3rd anything?
Right.
That used to be what Ivory Knight's praying for, and now Noblord knows the importance of this. We all know the importance of this. Let's see what he gets. He just wants a card with a high number on it. He doesn't care what the card does.
Spike Ridge Steed. That's got a pretty good number on it. Who needs Ivory Knight anymore?
Right. And he will actually just play this first now. That's actually guaranteed heal for 12.
Yep, I was about to say something about how Spellbreaker can be used on the Bitterside Hydra, like we saw Amnesiac do yesterday, to buff it back up and just win the game. But now, I think there's a very obvious target if Spellbreaker gets picked up. Naga Corsair is a 4-mana card, but not the right one.
And these Ivory Knights, yeah, Noblord's punching the air. He knows now that he's got this because there was no Spellbreaker. And Ivory Knight would just solidify his advantage enough. Most likely, this can still have an accident. Oh, rolls the 3-1.
And you know, that's not uncommon. There are so many Paladin secrets. Cards like Adaption, Divine Shield is another one. There are so many cheap Paladin cards. This happens somewhat regularly.
And this is why this, not this, the reason this card is in this deck is for stabilization in these situations. And it's not done it. Now he's got to go to plan B, which is, oh my God, I better kill him then.
I'm kind of surprised he went for Adaption on the guy that's already a taunt. Obviously, he got what he wanted, which was the Divine Shield.
Right.
But he could have targeted the Ivory Knight and gone for another taunt.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I wonder what made him make that decision. I didn't even see what the other adapt options were. It was such a snap.
I think he knows the hand is full of weapons.
Yeah. Right.
Nothing has happened for a turn or two. He probably knows the hand is full of weapons, so that Divine Shield on the taunt is actually eating 5 damage, or 9. Oh. Right, Noblord yet again thinking he's won, but this time I think he's right.
Crossing Berserker not going to do anything. A reverse sweep from Noblord, earning his place in top 4 of DreamHack Atlanta. Cora, what do you make of that?
I'm not gonna lie, I was rooting for Noblord on this one. Richwebz is a great guy. You can't deny the meme power of Easy Big Easy Druid, but Noblord, he's been in the scene for so freaking long, and people don't realize this. He was 1 win away from making it to the World Championships last year. He had enough HCT points to make it into last call, even though he hadn't been in other previous championships, and you saw him using his Golden Celebration card back here. He's been so close to the pinnacle of Hearthstone competition in the past, and now he's finally getting back there. He's so incredibly deserving.
Yeah. Was it a mistake?
No, oh God, no. I came in right at the beginning of this game just to sit here and you know, get ready for whoever was gonna win. And I saw him roping out, and I saw the pull and the oops. I'm like, no, he just mind gamed the hell out of him. Noblord would not be making those mistakes at this level. I don't know that Richwebz fell for it, but the fact that Noblord tried, that, oh, yeah, oof. It was good.
It was
pretty
well
good.
timed as well. He timed it so that it hit the end of the rope.
Yeah.
It could have been a mistake.
Perfect.
It could have so easily been a mistake.
Shows a lot of self-awareness as well, because he is the guy who sits there and talks to himself and works it all out as he's going, so he can get away with something like that. Whereas if, I don't know, someone like Calm, like Just Saying, suddenly did it, you're like, nah, that's just an act, mate.
Yeah.
But when it's someone like Noblord, who's very animated all of the time...
It looked like he's stressed and like he might be considering a lot of things, and like it could have been a genuine accident, but I think we know better than that. So now Noblord is going to be the first player through to the semifinals. Unfortunate for Richwebz, but his tournament journey will end here. Do you guys think that Noblord could take this all the way?
I do, but the part of the draw he's in is the tough part. He's got to play the winner of 2 of the best players in the world in the next round. But yes, I would like to see him win it all.
It was nice for me to meme around and say, yeah, easy, big, easy Druid. We saw the Druid. Ultimately, of course, I'm thrilled to see Noblord win, but as Lorinda said, there are a lot of good competitors coming up in the next couple of games.
Yeah, he's gonna have to face the winner of Chalky versus Just Sayin', and that will actually be our next match. We're gonna go to a short break just to shuffle some things around, but we will be back with our second quarterfinal right after this.